counselor and a member of the American Counseling Association. I support this bill.
Good, thank you. Yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm Equality
You
of Virginia,
support it?
and we support this bill for the reasons stated.
Great, and thank you for coming. Yes, hey, welcome back.
Thank you, Jennifer Allen, Planned Parenthood Advocates. We support this bill on behalf of our LGBTQ patients across the Commonwealth.
Great, thanks for your help. Thank you. You just want to say you also support?
Yes, but I was personally not a snake owl. I've had friends who committed suicide.
Well, we appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. With that,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I want to ask a question of the patron.
sure.
And I appreciate all the people who have spoken, and this is an important issue, but if you actually read the bill, one of the things that sort of concerns me is, let's say somebody comes into I'm not a psychologist and I don't play one on TV, but let's say a teenager comes into my office and that person is what we would call in a different era promiscuous with somebody of the opposite sex. And you say as a psychologist, you should stop having sex with that person of the opposite sex. That's clearly not covered by this because you're not reducing their urging towards a member of the opposite sex. Now, what if they come in the same situation and they're having sex with somebody of the same sex? And now you say you should stop having that relationship. Are they now in violation of the statute?
No, not at all. That doesn't cover this. This only covers counseling that's intended to change your orientation, not prevent you from engaging in sex. That's totally.
Well, it says
appropriate counseling.
or to eliminate or
Senator
reduce
Peterson.
sexual or romantic attractions or feelings. I mean, that's or.
Where are you? What line are you on?
Well, it says or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings towards individuals of the same gender.
I think that relates to in general and not to a specific person.
Well, I guess
Senator Peterson.
my point is, and listen, I don't support conversion therapy, but this bill's pretty broad. And, if you counsel someone towards abstinence, I mean, unless it's abstinence in a heterosexual relationship, in which case you're not covered.
Yeah, all I can tell the gentleman is at least, the people I've been speaking with about this made it very clear to me that it's their perception that it would not be interpreted that way by the licensing authorities. And they're here, Mr. Roberts is here to probably address that question better than I can, but I don't think they view it that way either.
Well, let me just, if I might, Mr. Chair, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but listen, I know that these are social issues and you're just supposed to vote and not actually read the legislation, but if you read the legislation, I mean, is abstinence covered by this or not?
Here's a professional, he probably answer the question better than I can.
Hi, I am a counselor. As a therapist or a psychologist, it is never the role to tell a client what to do or what not to do. So it is actually not the role of a therapist to advocate for abstinence or not abstinence. It's the role of the therapist to look at what the goals are for the client and what's going to help them from their perspective and help them get there. But conversion therapy already sets that goal, and it, before the client even comes
I don't
in,
mean to
already
cut you off.
says.
I understand, maybe, can I
says
talk, Mr. Brown?
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, very
Are
briefly.
you here to answer his
Yes.
question? Okay.
David Brown addressing the question from Senator Peterson. I think the boards in question have a clear understanding of what conversion therapy is, and I think I don't think your hypothetical would apply. That's based on the conversations. I know these boards have discussed conversion therapy, and
I'll make one more,
Senator Peterson.
and then I'll shut up.
Nope.
And I'm going to vote for Scott's bill, but if this gets through, this needs to be cleaned up because it's just too broad right now. The language is broader than just conversion therapy, in my opinion.
Okay. Senator
Mr.
Carrico.
Chairman.
Just real quick for Dr. Brown. So if I'm a licensed counselor and I'm not being paid, but yet I have these conversations with a family member that asks me to have it with the child, can I not be reported right now and lose my license?
if you're a licensed counselor, someone can make a complaint against you for whatever
And
reason.
you're going to investigate?
And it will be investigated.
Thank you.
Senator Donovan.
Mr. Chairman, and for Dr. Brown as well. That's my point. Having served on the Board of Medicine, we have an entire board of subject matter experts that hear these kinds of things. Conversion therapy is clearly not approved therapy in the clinical community now. So why are we codifying an arena of the board when we have entrusted subject matter experts to discern those matters individually as clinical practice changes?
All right,
I guess maybe I
So-
was an assertion, I apologize.
good. Thank you. Senator Peak, you have a question, sir? Okay, very good. So, Scott, if it's okay, we're going to go to the side where those that struggle with the bill, and you also will have 5 minutes. You don't have to take it all, but welcome to hear.
I'll try not to. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Chris Friend of the Family Foundation. For those of you who are on the subcommittee that heard testimony on this bill 2 years ago, you may remember John. John came and told his story of having once had struggling with same-sex attraction, but had received counseling and no longer had that struggle. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today to testify because he's over at MCV attending to his wife, who is very sick. Note that I said his wife. He is happily married, leading a very, very productive life, and wanted to be here today to stand before you to show you that such people actually exist. There are people who have had unwanted same-sex attraction that no longer do so because of counseling or therapy. Some people refuse to recognize the existence of these people. John wanted to be here to show you that they do exist, and there are thousands of them. This legislation is dangerous in several ways. First, despite the assurances that this doesn't apply to those who have unwanted same-sex attraction, I read the bill over and over again. I do not see a caveat for that. This is a broad bill that I do believe will prevent those who have unwanted same-sex attraction from getting counseling. It violates Virginia state law that says that a parent has a fundamental right to direct the care of their children. And finally, as been pointed out, we have a board of counseling that licenses, that complaints can go through. And if there are people who believe that something has been done that should be questioned, that's what the board is for. So for those reasons, we encourage you to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. Yes, sir. Welcome back.
At Yale, Virginia Assembly Independent Baptist, I had a pastor in our group who's a licensed counselor who had to stop. And that was part of his way of earning income because it was a small church. And he literally, because of pressures, because while people may not accept this is a very subjective area. Counseling is very subjective. And if we go back in the history of Virginia and the United States back in the early 1900s, there was a move to sterilize certain individuals because they thought that was in the best interest of society and those people. And what happened is we ended up having to give reparations to those individuals for that great error in judgment, and I hope we don't move the direction now. Thank you.
All right. Yes, you want to pause?
In the last century, it went on until 1971.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Saslaw, and we will begin again. You have about
people who we thought were mentally deficient.
Yes, that's right.
Whatever the hell that means.
Thank you, Mr.
You have
Chairman.
about 2 minutes left. Welcome.
Bill Ray with the Virginia Catholic Conference. Most of the points I was going to make have already been made, so I'll be brief. We do have concerns that this could affect clergy if they are also licensed psychologists, or licensed therapists, rather. Also the concerns about the broadness of the language. If it does prohibit anything that would reduce romantic attractions or feelings, this could prohibit simple counseling to chastity. Also, the enactment clause at the end is somewhat worrisome. It prevents the state from authorizing a grant or a contract with any entity that would even refer for this. So there's additional concerns if someone were to hand a list of therapists to someone and one of those therapists ended up performing something that would fall under this overly broad language, that could jeopardize grants and contracts. So we just have a number of concerns about the scope of this bill and would encourage you to oppose it. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else here speak in opposition to the bill? Okay. Senator Black.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to make a comment. I just looked up as we were talking There's Dr. Robert Spitzer, a psychiatry professor at Columbia University, who began his study on conversion therapy as a skeptic. He did not believe that it was something that worked, and yet his analysis indicated that of 143 men, 57 women who said that they had these same-sex attractions, that there were a substantial number who had achieved a very smooth heterosexual functionality. And I just point that out because I have seen dozens and dozens and dozens of similar studies, and it sort of goes back to the First Amendment. I have, not just with this bill, but with many things, I really am very uneasy with the idea that we instruct people that they cannot express their beliefs, their opinions, even though those opinions may be difficult for other people to accept. And we've seen psychiatry. If you go back to the DSM-4 from years and years ago, it said things that were radically different than today. And so the idea that you would just simply say, well, we're going to fix it in place and we're going to make it unchangeable forever. I think that these are matters of opinion, and I think that reasonable people should be able to express their opinion. If somebody does not like that type of therapy, they are quite free in our marketplace to say, I don't like what you're doing, and I'm going to go to somebody else who will take a different approach. So.
Great. Senator Black, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Senator Howe.
I would just like to point out that we're talking here about children. We're just saying that children cannot be subjected to this therapy. If any adult wants it, it doesn't impact them at all.
Great. Any other comments by committee members? Scott, why don't you just sum up real quickly, and then we'll take a vote. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everybody's distracted by this emergency alert on the screen, but
Jonathan says it's okay.
Okay. It's nobody light a match. Mr. Chairman, I just would point out again that virtually, I'm not aware of any professional organization engaged in any kind of psychological, psychiatric counseling which says this is an approved practice. I've listed them out. It's been rejected, as you heard, for a long time. The APA, in 2009, the American Psychological Association issued a report, speaking to the gentleman from Lynchburg, Senator from Lynchburg's question, that they found the harms associated with conversion therapy include anxiety, depression, suicidality, guilt, helplessness, hopelessness, shame, social withdrawal, substance abuse, stress, self-blame, decreased self-esteem, increased self-hatred, problems in behaviors, high-risk sexual behaviors, deterioration in relationships with family. And that's if people do this. We're talking about children. Children don't have a choice. We heard testimony 2 years ago from people who had been through this, who had tried to commit suicide. We heard testimony 2 years ago from families who said they'd been duped into doing this and they didn't like it. I think we really ought to step in.
Okay. Scott, thank you very much. Is there any other committee member have any comments? Senator Chase.
Mic on here. Thank you. Senator Sarvel, I guess the question I had is, where are the parents in this situation? We're talking about children that are 18 years and under. I'm just curious, where are the parents in this situation making those decisions for the kids?
I'm not sure I completely understand your question, because
the parents have a say, is basically what she's saying. I mean, you're saying that you can't do it
Correct.
no matter what the parents say. Is that correct?
That's correct, and there's lots of different things like that where we tell parents they can't do it. You heard of several listed, including allowing your kid to smoke or drink or engage in other kinds of behaviors which are harmful to children, which we've deemed are harmful to children. Actually, you couldn't let your kid drink, I think, but but smoking, I think, has been prohibited. And And obviously, I don't think you could sanction any kind of medical procedure for your child, which would be harmful to the child. I don't think any doctor would do it. It's probably illegal.
Okay, any other questions? Senator Servell, I appreciate you coming forward, and as always, a very succinct presentation. Senator, I think we could come to an agreement on some conversion therapy as it used to mean, which is a lot of terrible things, honestly. There's the chemical castration, the some of the shock therapy, some really tough things. Maybe we can work on that. There is this entire question about whether it reaches into the parents and the pastor's role, and so I think that's kind of the struggle. It's not disrespect to your position and your presentation here that is of a little bit of concern, but I thank you for coming. So, is there a motion on the bill?
Move to report.
There's a motion to report, and there's a substitute motion to, there's a motion to PBI, and then there's a substitute motion to report. Therefore, the primary motion is that we report the bill. All those in favor of reporting the bill will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. The clerk will close the roll.
Yea 7, nays 8.
Okay. Yeas 7, nays 8, the bill does not report, and then